In today's show, we're previewing the Trailblazers' first preseason game, what to watch and how to watch it. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we are previewing the Blazers' first preseason game of 2025. They're going to get on the basketball court. They're going to play an exhibition game, not quite a real basketball game, but something that is much more similar to a real basketball game than we have seen in months. They face the Warriors in San Francisco. Let's talk all about what we're watching and how we're watching it in today's program. First, I do think we're going to see like 20 minutes of a pretty good Warriors team. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater, Steve Kerr expects his veterans to play more minutes than they did in the opening game. And in the opening game, his veterans played about 15 minutes. So we could see 20 minutes of Steph and Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler and Al Horford. Like we might see a team that's going to be pretty good. Like if the Warriors are healthy, they're good. They're just like a bunch of gentlemen in their middle and late 30s. So it'd be a good test. The Warriors have already played one. This is their second one. So this will be a nice opportunity for the Blazers to kind of see where they're at. I have in the past kind of poo-pooed the value of preseason. You know, this was many moons ago. I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This stuff doesn't matter. The exhibition season doesn't matter. And then there was a couple years where, particularly in the Chauncey Billups era, is when this has changed. So since the 2021-2022 season, but like, like the Blazers just looked horrendous in a couple preseasons. They got smashed. They just like didn't win and they weren't competitive. And it was just like, they just got beat up a few times, thrashed a few times in the exhibition season. And it changed my view on it. And I said, this actually does matter. This is meaningful. I think the last year of the Terry Stotts era was pretty similar, where they kind of like looked really, really bumpy in preseason. And then they started out not very good, right? Like it was like, maybe this isn't going to be the defensive overhaul you hoped for. And I think this is, the end of the Stotts era and the Billups era has changed my opinion on the value of preseason. So I do think it matters. If you're non-competitive, if you lose the first quarter when mostly the regulars are playing like 39-17, it's like, like that's a problem. So I think I won't fully dismiss it as maybe I would have 3 and 4 and 5 years ago outright. Just said, I don't think it matters. I do think it is a good sort of measuring stick, but it kind of depends on what you're measuring. I don't really care about like shooting accuracy necessarily, but it is the art of appreciating preseason is more of appreciating how they play as opposed to what actually happens. So it's like, does the process make sense? Okay, if the process is okay, you don't need to be as worried about the results. But of course, like if the process is okay and it generates only negative results, I don't think you can ignore them outright like I might have in the past. And Billups kind of mentioned as much, is that like he won't be watching for the box score stuff, points, rebounds, assists. Like he's not going to watch box score stuff because he says, he knows everybody's assignments and he knows everybody's responsibilities. So what he is watching is how they go about executing the assignment and taking care of their responsibilities out on the court. I would say right away for me, game one of preseason, I'm not sure I'll be able to, if you screw up enough, I've watched enough basketball in my time and I'm pretty confident in my sort of basic understanding of it that I will be able to say, like, that didn't work. And here's what they were trying to do and it didn't work. But I think I won't have the assignments down cold until I watch him play, 10 or 20 games. and 10 or 9 games, 9 or 10 games, 10 or 20 games. And then I'll really have it dialed, right? I'll have a better sense of the assignments. But what I will be watching in this first game, and I think this is important, is what it looks like. The Blazers have talked a bunch in preseason and in their media availabilities, where the press has been available, or they've been made available to the press rather, about a new offensive system. It is supposedly going to feature a bunch more movements, a lot less just like come down and get into pick and rolls, but more flowing into actions and read and react offense and guys lifting out of the corners. So instead of staying in the corners, you lift out of the corners, you get into dribble handoffs, you like all of the sort of like beautiful game egalitarian stuff that I think we saw from the Pacers. Maybe we saw a little bit of it from the Grizzlies last year, but I think the Grizzlies offense was it wasn't unique enough that I don't think saying like it'll be the Grizzlies just because the Blazers employ a former Grizzlies coach. I think that's too much. I think it's lifted from a couple different places, and I think hearing Chauncey talk about it, the names that he's like the team that he's sort of not saying but seems to be implying a stylistic borrowing from, and this is the league is a copycat league, is the Pacers style, which is a team that plays fast and quickly in the half court. They run, but also like they play with pace in the half court. They don't just park guys in the corner. There's a lot of movement stuff and getting bigs out above the 3-point line and all those things to run dribble handoffs. And you still get into screen and roll actions, right? But it's sort of how you get into those actions. I am really curious what the offense looks like. What does it look like? So I'm going to, one, just sort of like big functional stuff. Is it notably different? Does this look totally different? I guarantee some folks will just be so invested in it being new that they will find things that are different. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm not invested in it being wholly different. I want to see the actual functional stuff and the way that it changes. If you put a bunch of dummy actions in there and still run just like a high pick and roll screen, rescreen stuff, I don't care about the dummy action. So I want to see how it is functionally different. One of the things I'll be looking at, and I might even hand chart this, depending on how much real sort of starter action regular players we get, is like how many passes do they make in half court possessions, or when they don't pass in half court possessions, how quickly do they get into initial actions? So like I don't care that if it's a one pass or no pass possession. But if a one pass or no pass possession when you start at the top of key and pound the rock and then dribble is different than a no pass possession when you flow quickly into a side pick and roll because you have an advantage and attack the rim and get downhill and get into a good shot, right? It's not all created the same. I think the Blazers playing faster and smarter is one huge thing I'll watch. I don't think the defense is going to be wholly different, but how they play defense will be really curious to me. They have a couple years ago, they pressed more than any other team in the league, and it kind of eventually caught up with them. They were just getting out of position, pressing too much. They're just saying like, okay, Toumani Camara is going to pick up 94 feet, and then eventually his man's kind of going to get past him, and then we're going to be playing from behind, like Toumani on the chase, and like sort of creating an advantage for the offense 70 feet from the rim. So they I would say last year, and I don't have the tracking stats to back this up, but just my eyeballs suggest that their pickup point drops back a little bit as opposed to picking up at 90 feet. I think they picked up at, beyond half court, but not all the way. They're still a team that picks up high, in the backcourt and sometimes, at the 3-point line, but like it wasn't a true press, and it wasn't a press where like everybody's pressing and then you try to get back. And again, smart teams can break that pressure quickly and get an advantage. It seems like they dialed that back a little bit. And because they dialed that back a little bit, they were better on defense, because they were kind of playing smarter. I wonder, because they've talked about how much they want to press and then the personnel they have, does that change? And so I'll be watching that. To me, that is more of how they play as opposed to what they do. I think it'll be unavoidable if a guy makes 4 of 5 3-pointers to not be like, hey, he shot it really well. But I think the most telling parts of preseason are the function, not the outcomes. So I will be trying hard as a viewer to appreciate and pay purposeful attention to the function of the offense, the function of the defense. And one thing, at the advice of Chauncey Billups, is I'm going to do my absolute best not to read into the lineups he chooses in game 1. But boy, I'm going to want to. It is in my nature to want to read into it, because one of the curious parts about this season moving forward is who does Chauncey end up picking as his starting five? And then to me, even more interesting, which we will certainly not find out in preseason, but eventually we'll find out in the regular season, is who's in the closing lineup and how often does that closing lineup change? Plus, Billups says he might expand the rotation this year. I want to talk about starting lineups, expanded rotation, and a couple other things in the second segment. Join me there as we continue our preseason preview. First, though, let's talk Monarch Money. You know that most people can't even name all of their financial accounts or what they're worth. So whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments, if you don't have the full picture of those things, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. So you can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So, if you're just trying to find the inefficiencies in your investment allocation, or you're someone who shares finances with someone, Monarch Money can be a great way to get organized and get on the same page, and to not miss opportunities to grow your wealth. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by the good folks over at DUER. You know what they're doing? They're making the most comfortable jeans. I'm rocking the Relax Fit Taper from DUER. I got black jeans. I'm doing things in them. First of all, I'm looking stylish, right? Like I'm comfortable and I'm looking stylish. I look presentable at work. I can go out to a nice dinner wearing these things, but I can also get stuff done. I can run around and chase my small child on the playground. I can run errands, and then I can come home and just be chilling on the couch, and I'll be comfortable doing all of those things because DUER has 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They feel stretchy without looking stretchy. DUER are the pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. It is time to upgrade to the world's most comfortable pants. Get your own DUER jeans today. I know you'll love those too. And DUER are opening a new store right here in Portland on Northwest 23rd. In October, you can check them out at 820 Northwest 23rd Avenue. This is the new era of denim in Portland. You can mention my promo code in store, LOCKEDONPortland. You'll get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at shopDUER.com/LockedOnPortland for 15% off. That's shopDUER.com/LockedOnPortland. All right, still a pass first point guard. That's what I do in the third segment. We don't even talk about basketball positions in the second segment. All right, let's get into some thoughts from Chauncey Billups. First, Billups, he really tried to say it. He said, I'm going to experiment with lineups. I'm going to rotate several guys into the starting lineup one night and say this guy's coming off the bench this night, and this guy's coming off the bench, and this guy's starting lineup going to be in the starting lineup this night, and he's going to mix and match. And I had mentioned on the show before, as I'm a close viewer of the Trailblazers, that Billups hadn't really done like the full dress rehearsal in any of his preseasons to date. Like he hadn't done like a true, hey, first 45 minutes of this game is straight up, or first 40 minutes of this game is straight up, and then maybe we won't do the final sub at the end of the game, and we'll play the last 6 minutes with the end of the bench. But he hasn't done like a true dress rehearsal where it's like, this is the lineups we're going to play in the regular season. This is the rotation pattern I'm going to start the year with, and let's see what it looks like to get guys like comfortable in their roles. A big part of just coaching in general is you got to provide guys with comfort. So he says, he's going to try different things, and he's not going to rest anyone. No one's going to get DNPs during this preseason run. If he's going to rest him, he's just going to play him less. Like, hey, you're going to play 8 minutes tonight. But in last year, like DeAndre Ayton got some time off. Tumani Kamara even got a DNP because they were doing something else. Anthony Simons didn't play in preseason, the first 3 games of preseason last year because he had an ankle injury. And then when he played, they dialed back some minutes off of some other rotation guys at the end. So like, yeah, he's mix and match for sure. but the first 5 guys he trots out there, I'm going to read into it, even if he offers the following advice.
That's on y'all. Y'all go ahead, have fun.
No,
I'm telling y'all, it's not worth reading into, but y'all can do what y'all got to do.
I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to read into it. Look, in 2023, game 1 of the preseason, Chauncey Billups started Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Matisse Thybulle, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. Those were his opening night starting 5. Game 1 of the preseason, right in front of us. Those are the dudes who are going to play. Last year in preseason, Anthony Simons missed the first 3 games, and then at the final game of preseason, the starting lineup was Anthony Simons, Tumani Kamara, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, and Donovan Clingan, except as I mentioned, when Ant came back, it's arrested some other guys. DeAndre Ayton gets a DNP, but those 4 guys, Ant, 2, Denny, JG, that's your starting lineup. That's your night 1 group, right? Yeah, I'm going to have trouble not reading into it. I am. I'm going to want to read into it. But here's I won't set it in stone necessarily, right? But I'm going to probably defy the Billups, the Billups request, because he's going to give us at least some tip of who's where, right? Although he's going to say, yeah, this is kind of the pecking order as I see it. These are combos I like, but also, like, you know, he will trot out and mix and match lineups. And so if he does trot out and mix and match lineups, I'm going to do my best to sort of use my my sort of logic and nuance and understanding of what I think he might do to get a better sense of it. But I'm obviously going to speculate. I'm obviously going to read into the choices he makes, even if he doesn't want to. A couple things. Billups, this last Friday, you were listening to Wednesday, October 8th's program. I appreciate you listening. Last Friday, Joe Freeman of the Oregon Live was on the program, and he mentioned that he had heard, I think he cited an anonymous source. I'm not sure he cited Billups or whoever he might have, but to my knowledge, I didn't go back and listen, but to my knowledge, he said, like, based on conversations he'd had with people in the organization heading into the season, he had heard that Billups was likely to expand his rotation to using 10 or 11 guys. That is not uncommon preseason talk for coaches. Oh, we're going to play more dudes this year, right? Oh yeah, we're going to expand the rotation. There's room for everybody. But I will say, based on how the 2 teams that made the finals last year, the Pacers and the Thunder, played during the regular season, they're teams that play, you know, really, really hard, really, really all out, and they go deep into their rotations during the regular season. Mark Daigneault plays, 11 guys in the first half, 11 guys in the first quarter sometimes in Oklahoma City, and the Pacers have absolutely done that under Rick Carlisle. Played 11 guys with regularity. Even like in the playoffs, both teams would go deep into their benches. Even in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, both teams went like surprisingly deep into their benches early in that game because of the style that they play. You play really hard on defense, and you say, okay, we're going to just rotate through guys because that's the expectation. We're not going to wear folks down. That doesn't mean that they're not like star-driven teams necessarily. It just means that like they believe in the value of depth and a style that demands a little bit of depth. And Chauncey Billups said today at practice, right there on the microphone in front of everyone for you to hear, is that he plans on using 10 or 11 guys in his rotation this year. He has typically, during his first 4 seasons with the Blazers, been a 9 or 9.5 coach. 9.5 is what I use to mean like he plays 9 guys, but he plays 10 in the first half and 9 in the second half. So he doesn't, when it's time to win the game, you don't get a 10-man rotation. You kind of shorten it to a 9.5. 10 or 11 is an NBA trend. Like I said, this is like, it does seem like Billups really watched how the Pacers played and said that is a thing that we could emulate to some extent. Like, you don't have Tyrese Halliburton, obviously, and like your personnel is different. But in terms of like the ball pressure and the speed in the half court and the way they play there, I think there's some stuff you can borrow there. And it sounds like, this is me reading between the lines, and I don't think Billups has been specifically asked about the Pacers, although he has been specifically asked about the Memphis Grizzlies. So yeah, like, I do think he's borrowed some from that, and this is typical. I wrote a story about this many years ago when I worked for NBC Sports. Is like whoever's on top in the league usually sets the trend. Teams that win set the trend. Okay, this one in May and June, this one at the highest levels and the most important levels, we're going to play like that. I remember Eric Spoelstra saying like, when the Heat were winning, they were the team you copycat, and then when the Warriors were winning, that was the team everyone wanted to go small and copycat their style, right? And so like, playing deep, playing, that aggressive style of defense, pressing, all the things that the Pacers, showed that you are capable of doing. And to some extent, maybe the like OKC, like really heavy pressure defense, but just kind of not worrying about teams shooting threes, but being, absolutely walling off the paint. Maybe that is a trend that moves that we see. But I think those are big parts of the preseason I'll be watching. It'll be hard to know the 10 or 11 guys, but I do think because the rotation is going to be naturally deeper, but I do think we'll get at least one game that is impossible not to read into from Billups, where it's like, hey, he played 10 dudes in the first half, and those 10 dudes seem pretty clearly to be the top 10 players currently in the rotation, right? I think we'll get a good sense at some point. He did mention that Drew Holiday is not going to play in the second half of the first game. So like, again, like we're talking 2 quarters of basketball. We're going to have a narrow window to learn in game 1. We'll probably learn more in game 2 than we did in game 1. We'll probably learn more in game 3 than we did in those 2 games. And we'll probably learn nothing in game 4. That's typically how these things go, but we'll see how it works. But that's what I'm going to be watching. How they play, expanded rotation, offense, defense, sort of the function of it as opposed to the results. And I will just unavoidably be reading into it. I'm sorry, Coach. I'm sorry, Chauncey, but that is just how it's going to go down for me on this particular podcast. Let's talk Sean Padula. He spent 4 hours with the Portland Trailblazers today, and when he got waived, it does seem like the Blazers have chosen their final 2-way spots and that the roster appears to be finalized as we head into the preseason games. Let's talk about that in the third segment to close the show. Join me there, won't you? First, though, let's talk FanDuel. It's football season, and FanDuel's got an offer that you do not want to miss. You don't want to miss it. Because right now, new customers to FanDuel can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Very simple. You pick a bet. You put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So however you want to wager, parlays, player props, live betting games, whatever it is, go check it out and you'll find it on FanDuel. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. So, the Blazers sent out a press release today at 11:03 a.m. It made it into my email inbox. Trailblazers sign Sean Padula. You'll remember Sean Padula. He's a 6'2 guard that was on the Blazers summer league team. He went to Virginia Tech and then finished his college career at Ole Miss. A real thorn in the side of my beloved Tar Heels. Ended their season with Ole Miss this year and was pretty annoying to deal with when he was at Virginia Tech as well. But he's like a 6'2 guard who's just like not quite a point guard. He's like such an obvious G leaguer, right? Skilled offensive player and all those things, but just like not the size and the skill set that makes him like an obvious NBA quality talent. And so when 11:03 a.m., they announced the signing of Sean Padula. I was under the impression that Padula had already agreed to an Exhibit 10 contract when he signed with the Blazers Summer League team, but I guess what it was that he agreed to eventually sign one, and today he officially signed one. That's like the problem with the modern reporting, is we get like the specificity and the sort of order of operations has kind of died in the race to do an agent a favor and put out some information about their client. I don't love it. And so In a subsequent move, the Blazers announce with this Sean Padula signing at 11:03 a.m. that the Blazers have requested waivers on Marjon Beauchamp, Andrew Carr, and Liam Robbins. Beauchamp and Carr and Robbins had all previously signed training camp contracts. They're waived, which means that they have like priority. If they join the Blazers G League team, the Rip City Remix, there's some guaranteed money waiting for them. I believe it's up to $75,000 that they can be given, but it's like it gives them true guaranteed money. And basically, I don't think the NBA intended for Exhibit 10 contracts to work this way, but the way that they functionally work now is that teams get guys into training camp for very brief periods of time, 4 hours in Sean Padula's case, or Sean Padula's case, excuse me, and then they waive them, give them a little bit guaranteed money, and then send them to the G League where they're not specifically part of the Blazers minor league system. They are like part of the G League player pool happening to play for the Rip City Remix. The Blazers don't have any more right to sign Padula or Beauchamp or Carr or Robbins than any other team. Once those guys enter the G League, everyone has the exact same access to every player in the G League in order to sign them to a two-way deal or an NBA contract if they so choose. I don't think the NBA intended Exhibit 10 contracts to work that way, but Sean Padula and Marjon Beauchamp and Carr and Andrew Carr and Liam Robbins all experienced the magic of how teams functionally do this. This is not unique to the Blazers. Every team does this. It's a little bit stupid, but so that's 11:03 a.m. Fast forward 4 hours and 17 minutes at 3:20 p.m. Arriving in my email inbox, the Portland Trail Blazers have requested waivers on guard Sean Padula. Portland's roster now stands at 18, including two-way players. That means let's do the math. 15 NBA contracts. That's 15. Okay, now we're down to 3. Two-way players. We'll subtract those. Now we're down to 1. And they waived Beauchamp. They waived Carr. They waived Robbins. They waived Padula. That means Javonte Cook, come on down. It appears Javonte Cook is at least the strong leader in the clubhouse to make the Blazers team as they're on the final two-way spot. A two-way job is specifically a contract within the Blazers developmental system. It's not really an NBA deal. It's a G League contract, but it is for those 3 guys that everyone has on two-way deals. That is specifically a contract that makes you part of the Blazers organization, and other teams do not have the right to outright sign them. You're not part of the G League player pool. You're a player on a two-way contract. And Javonte Cook seems to have received great news today. The 6'6" wing who has spent the last 3 years in the G League, after playing Division II basketball, looks like he's going to earn a two-way spot with the Blazers. I'll mention this a couple here, like just for those of you like doing scoring at home, right? I have covered the NBA for 10 years. I know some folks, but I'm not deeply plugged in, nor do I report at a high level anymore. Like I just don't make the effort to, because my life has changed. I'm here and I'm doing my best on the podcast, but I'm not like working the phones, right? Like I text people from time to time and ask questions, but I respect the people who do this full time. This is something that I really enjoy doing, but it's not my survival job. But I mentioned, because I've been doing this a long time, that when the Blazers kind of announced these training camp deals for Beauchamp and Carr and Robbins and Javonte Cook, was that notably Cook was the player they agreed to with a contract first and gave the money to first. And often who you pay first and who you sign first is the player you prefer, right? Because you prioritize them. And I had highlighted that as hey, it might not be Cook, but if you are, earmarking things that like sort of how the logic works at home, Cook was the guy who got the money first, right? He was an early September agreement, got the money first. And a notable invite, right? Now everybody gets, and then Freeman, when he was on the show on Friday, mentioned the same thing. It's like, yeah, I think they're leaning Cook, and Freeman's guess there was, yeah, they paid him first and they signed him first. Again, it's like people who've been doing it a long time in the league. Freeman's been doing it a lot longer than I have. It is now, it seems to be that was the strong indicator. Who they gave the money to first, who they signed first, seems to have that last two-way spot. Cook, if you will note, has not made his NBA debut yet. Spent last year with the Oklahoma City Blue, the prior 2 years in the G League with the Iowa Wolves. He's like an athletic, rangy guard with who has not shot particularly well in the G League, but has some athleticism. He played for the Miami Heat in Summer League, and according to Joe Freeman, said right here in this podcast, is that's where he kind of caught the Blazers' eye. Had a strong Summer League, and they were like, yeah, he's hooping. We like him. I think as of October 7th, although it's not officially official, I think the Blazers' 18-player roster heading into the season has been finalized, with 15 NBA spots already spoken for, 2 two-way contracts already spoken for with C. Sissoko and Caleb Love, and now only one dude in camp left on a training camp contract, and 1 two-way spot seems to be Javonte Cook has made the Blazers as a two-way player. Congratulations, and congratulations to you, dear listener. You made it to the end of the episode. Come back for tomorrow's show. We will talk about what happened in the preseason game. I'm going to watch the game. I'm going to watch it closely. I'm not going to lie to you like I'm going to watch it twice, but I'm going to watch it very closely once, and I'll take some notes, and we will talk about everything we learned and what we didn't learn. The question's still outstanding as we recap that one in tomorrow's program. Come back for that. Then come back for shows on Friday, where I'm going to talk Blazers X Factor. Who's the Blazers' biggest X Factor into the season? That'll be Friday's program as well. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Oh, real quick, if you missed any shows earlier this week, I've already put out 3. You're listening to Wednesday's show, and there are already 3 in your feed because I did a bonus show with Tony Schick of OPB. Tony wrote a large piece on Blazers owner Tom Dundon, and the reporter from Oregon Public Broadcasting, Tony Schick, was kind enough to come on the show and talk about that reporting that story and what we learned, and kind of just more insights into how Tom Dundon built his empire that is now allowing him to be the future owner of the Trailblazers. Go listen to a bonus show, go listen to other shows in your feed, and then come back and tell your friends. I can say with confidence, you're not getting this stuff elsewhere. Come get it here. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.